It's Mock Draft Monday here on the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. How many running backs go in round one? We will get to that next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Magdziuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Kate Magdziuk. You can follow her on Twitter at Kate Magdziuk. And on today's show, we are doing a full one-round Superflex rookie mock draft. Now that the NFL draft has concluded, we did one of these a couple days before the draft. We're going to go back and look at some of those results later in the week. But Kate, let's do a mock, kind of surveying the land here of our rookie drafts. Superflex, PPR, no tight end premium. You have the first pick. I think we know who you're taking.
I mean, I don't want to make an earth-shattering revelation here, but it's Ashton Jeanty, 101. It doesn't matter what format you're drafting in this year. Maybe if you're drafting in like an IDP league where you're going to get points both from the IDP side and the offensive production side, you're going to take Travis Hunter 101. But for most leagues, this is Ashton Jeanty, and it's not particularly close. Generational prospect who landed in a situation where he's going to get all the volume he wants. Not much to question here.
Do you like the landing spot for Ashton Jeanty? I mean, obviously, you're still picking him at 101, so you're obviously not that concerned. But overall, from a long-term perspective, is this a positive or a negative for him?
I think it's a positive. And I think when we're considering his prospects and when you're considering the fact that he was a top 6 NFL draft pick, yeah, I think he's going to get all of the volume he needs to sustain a top 5 workload. He's got the talent to be a top 5 back. Like, there is virtually no competition here for him in this Raiders backfield that I just can't.
You're not worried about Sincere McCormick and Zamir White and Dylan Lobb?
No, I actually, speaking of, I just, after a rookie draft this, past weekend, just dropped Sincere McCormick in one of my dynasty leagues today. And I felt pretty dang good about it because Ashton Jeanty is the clear 101.
Yeah. All right. Let's not spend too much time on the obvious pick. Let's go to pick 102, which is for me, a lot of different options. You could take Omarion Hampton, the top running back after Jeanty. You could go Travis Hunter if you want to be explosive and try to get go for the upside. But I'm taking Cam Ward, the quarterback now for the Tennessee Titans. It's a super flex draft, and one of the things you're going to see in these drafts is that the quarterbacks have just taken a major hit in value. Shedeur Sanders was somebody who was being mocked in the first round of these super flex rookie drafts. Not anymore. Not going to appear in this mock. Spoiler. Cam Ward here at 102. I know the weapons aren't great in Tennessee. I understand. But that's a short-term problem. Eventually, the Titans are going to surround him with playmakers. I think the rushing ability, even though he's not Jalen Hurts as a runner or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, he's going to be able to add value with his legs. And I do think this offense is going to be very pass-heavy. I think Cam Ward at 102, because there's only a finite number of starting quarterbacks in the league, I feel comfortable drafting him here.
Yeah, and I mean, you did have some options there. You could have gone Omarion Hampton, honestly, probably the most popular pick in my rookie mock drafts, or my rookie drafts in general. But I think when you're looking at how big a premium the quarterback position is in a super flex league, that is a spot where you need to get more edge than anywhere, right? Just kind of like the regular NFL, quarterback is the most premium position in a super flex league. That's part of why super flex leagues have become so popular, because they do kind of balance out the field when it comes to the quarterback position, and really emphasizes it as greatly as it does on the actual football field. Cam Ward, I don't love the cast of playmakers around him. I think in general, like, yeah, you're not going to be super, super excited when, a 90-year-old Calvin Ridley is your wide receiver one. But I do think that just given the investment they've made in Cam Ward, the upside of his legs, like, if you're in need of a quarterback, he's really going to be the only one I think you feel outstandingly safe in terms of like the number of chances he's going to get, how long is his leash, etc.
And I think like Bo Nix is a perfect example last year. We did not love Bo Nix's
Yep.
supporting cast. Whether it was the offensive line, the receivers, the running backs. Now, obviously, going to play with Sean Payton is different than playing with Brian Callahan. I get that. But it's just the value of these quarterbacks, the ones that can move a little bit, that are super productive passers coming out of college. Bo Nix started a bunch of games at college, and so did Cam Ward. Again, I understand that you're probably not getting a Jaden Daniels or a top flight quarterback like that. But even if Cam Ward only becomes like the 14th or 15th most valuable quarterback in a Superflex league, that is still incredibly valuable. So I think the floor is pretty high here. Kate, you are back on the clock at pick 103.
Stop making my picks so easy for me,
I know.
Marcus. We're going to follow this up with new RB1 in town for the Los Angeles Chargers, Amarian Hampton, who I think, not not on the same talent level, obviously, as Jeanty, but when we're looking at like complete running back prospects with a true 3-down skill set, day one, they step onto the football field. That other guy is Omarion Hampton in a big way. He's got that power, he's got that contact balance. He's got ideal size, 221 pounds, 5'11. Like his frame, great.
Perfect landing spot.
Perfect landing spot with Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman. They want to run the football. Now, obviously, when we're looking at Omarion Hampton's year one projections, I do think that there is a realistic threat for Najee Harris. Obviously, they gave him a deal worth up to $9 million. The base deal's pretty small, but I still think they're going to utilize him in a way that could steal some of the more valuable touches. Obviously, Najee Harris, a guy that you're probably going to trust on short yardage situations. You're probably going to get him a little bit of goal line work. I do think that's going to hurt Omarion Hampton a little bit in year one, but I mean, from a landing spot perspective, long term, from a skill set perspective, Omarion Hampton is so far and away the second best back in this class.
All right, pick 104. I want to continue this a little bit. I have a question. I'm taking Travis Hunter here at 104 just because I like the upside, but I have a very specific question for you. So I play in a couple of dynasty leagues where you play multiple defensive linemen, linebacker, and defensive backs. And I think from everything I've seen, ESPN and Yahoo and some of these other sites are going to classify Travis Hunter as a DB/receiver. If that's the case, and you can play Travis Hunter in your defensive back slot, can you make a case that he should be the number 2 overall pick here?
Pretty easily. I think you could make a case that he should be the number 1 overall pick in your drafts. If you are in a situation where you're going to be able to earn points on both sides of the football. So I don't know how they're going to break down the snaps, but I think there's like a decent chance that however they break things down, whether they, whatever the split is, he's going to play a ton of snaps, right? He's going to be an every down football player. It's just a matter of like, what's the breakdown of downs on which side?
Yeah, so I just checked, but ESPN has him listed as a wide receiver/cornerback, which means that if you play in these IDP leagues, you can have him be one of your starting corners. And how valuable would that be, Kate? Let's say the receiving production's only modest, and it's like 5 catches for 55 yards a game. But that again, PPR league, you're looking at 10.5 points for a defensive back, not counting all the tackle production, the pass deflection stuff. I think you can make a case that he is 102 in your super flex drafts. And again, maybe even higher if you're in an IDP league.
Yeah, maybe even higher for sure. And again, even looking at, so we're talking about the scoring upside, right? When you're getting, even if you had 3 catches for 30 yards, like that's an extra 6 points. That's a big edge, right? So
Huge edge.
even outside of that sort of scoring upside, when you get to double dip, also think about the positional flexibility that you would get in an IDP league where, okay, so let's say you're pretty stacked at wide receiver, but you're hurting at cornerback or vice versa. Because he collects points on both sides of the ball, you get that literal lineup flexibility of where do I want to slot him in any given week. If you have, a number of wide receivers on a bye any given week,
Yep.
slot him in as a wide receiver, move him from that cornerback. Like that kind of flexibility, I think can't be
Rare.
understated. And I think that's part of also the reason you could make the case for him at 101.
It's gonna be fun. I can't wait to. I'm gonna try my best to draft Travis Hunter in every
Mhm.
single league this upcoming year. It's gonna be so much fun. All right, Kay, let's get to pick 105, which was where this draft really starts to get interesting. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who will help you deliver incredible results. And posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, you can get multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That is Upwork.com. Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are doing a one-round Superflex rookie mock draft with the first 4 picks being Ashton Jeanty, Cam Ward, Amarian Hampton, and Travis Hunter. At pick 105, Kate, who are you taking?
It's got to be Tetero McMillan, new
Yeah.
wide receiver 1 for the Carolina Panthers. Now, I know we said it was about to get interesting. I don't think Tetero McMillan here in this spot is the crazy pick
No.
that we're probably going to see in the realm after, where we might get into some more juicy discussions. But I mean, Marcus, what do you think the overall upside is for Tetero McMillan in this offense? Because maybe people are a little bit nervous about like, how much is he gonna how much juice can you squeeze out of a wide receiver on the receiving end of a ball from Bryce Young? I do think in general, what we saw from him in the second half of last season should be very encouraging to people. And from a build perspective, from an archetype perspective, Tetero McMillan is a quintessential wide receiver 1 in the National Football League, or at least he profiles as such.
So let's look in the division. Drake London last year playing with a washed up Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix for I think the last 3 or 4 games of the year. 100 catches, 1,300 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Now, I'm not saying that McMillan is going to do that as a rookie, but I think that's a very attainable goal. Like somebody that can put up 13 yards per catch, be a target monster, and somebody that can play on the inside and the outside. I think McMillan has that kind of potential. And that's why I think you're right. At pick 105, McMillan here is, I think, the easy choice.
A little bit of chalk, but I don't know. Not so much chalk, I think, in the picks to come. So, Marcus, who are you taking next up at the 106?
All right, let's get weird. You ready to get weird?
Let's get weird. Come on.
So here's the thing. I'm debating the running backs, Quinshon, Judkins, and TreVeyon Henderson. Henderson went to the Patriots. He's going to be splitting snaps with Ramondre Stevenson. Judkins went to the Browns, and he's going to be splitting snaps with Jerome Ford and Dylan Sampson. Now, he was a high second-round pick, so that makes me feel good. But the offense, I just don't anticipate Cleveland being very good on offense. So at pick 106, I'm taking Colston Loveland, the tight end for the Chicago Bears. And here's the reason why. This was Ben Johnson's first draft pick with the Bears, right? The very first pick that he made was a slot tight end on a team that already had DJ Moore and Rome Odunze and Cole Kmet. It's clear that he wants Loveland to be a big part of the offense. And we saw what Ben Johnson did with Sam Laporta, who I think was a much lesser prospect, he turned him into the #1 overall tight end in Dynasty leagues for like 12 months. I think he's going to do the same with Colston Loveland. So in the middle of round 1, that's who I'm taking.
Wild, because you'll remember, dear listeners, this is not a tight end premium draft. So the fact that
No.
you have Colston Loveland, but Marcus, when we're looking at pass catchers in this draft, so like obviously we're going to talk about the running back situation. When we're looking purely at the upside of these receivers, in terms of opportunity, landing spot, skill set, we know that this isn't a great wide receiver class. I love Emeka Egbuka, who landed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Couldn't be a worse landing spot for projecting his upside as a receiver. He was probably, like, I think it's fair to say, I think he was the second most talented pass catcher in this class. He's kind of a boring one because I think he's just kind of a really well-rounded receiver. He's a good route runner. I think he's got good hands. I think his skill set's one that's like pretty safe. So he's not the sexiest pick. He's not got the same kind of upside as a 50-50 ball specialist like Tetero McMillan, but like he was my second favorite receiver in this class besides Travis Hunter, who we already talked about. But like outside of that field, Colston Loveland is, I think, the best pure receiver left on the board. Ignore the tight end designation. If we're looking at talent receiving upside, it is probably Colston Loveland, and you get him at a premium spot that it's kind of hard to find upside at the tight end position any given year.
Yeah, and I also want to point out, like, I'm looking at like the tight end rankings and the age, like George Kittle's in his 30s. This is probably Travis Kelce's last year. There's been some rumors that the Ravens would like to move on from Mark Andrews. It's just a very old position, and I want to start getting these guys in here that could potentially be top 5, maybe top 3 tight ends for the next decade. And I think that's Colston Loveland. I love the landing spot. I love the coach. I think Caleb Williams is going to have a monster year. I want Colston Loveland on my team, and I'm willing to, quote unquote, reach a couple spots to make sure that I have him.
I love that. So next up, this puts me in the most precarious position I think we've seen to this point just yet, where I have to make the decision between TreVeyon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, which I'm going to be honest, it's hard because the landing spot for TreVeyon Henderson, pairing him with Ramondre Stevenson, who I think will eat into that year 1 workload, Quinshon Judkins, who I don't know how good is that Browns offense going to be. They don't have the answer at quarterback. What's it going to look like? I'm going to go ahead and break the tie in favor of projected volume, which I think could go to Quinshon Judkins here. Drafted by the Cleveland Browns early 2nd round. And I think when you're projecting a dude who can really take on a full workload, when you're projecting a guy who's 5'11", 221 pounds and tested like a premium athlete, it feels like, I don't know, are we overthinking the debate between he and TreVeyon Henderson here?
No, I mean, it's tough. They were both drafted inside the top 40 picks. They both went to not great offenses. I think let's just spoil it now. I'm taking Henderson with 108, so we can kind of go back and forth. Yeah, shocker. I can see the argument for either. And maybe this is one of the things where if you have a later rookie draft, we'll have a better idea maybe what the roles will be earlier in their careers.
Yeah.
But I expect both players to play a lot. Their teams invested a high value pick into these running backs. It's important to remember Ramondre Stevenson. That's a previous coaching staff. There's no ties there. I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels just lean on TreVeyon Henderson. But I would also say for the Browns, this is kind of their guy with Judkins. They spent pick 35 on him. I think he's a prototypical AFC North running back. To get him at 107, I think is a good value. This is where I think they should be drafted.
Are you on board? Again, obviously you took Henderson after I took Judkins, but how are you, if you were at the 107, would you have also rolled with Judkins, or
Yes.
what do you think?
I would have probably went with Judkins just because I do think it's a little bit cleaner path to playing time. But there is part of me that's just concerned that this Cleveland offense could be a disaster again this year. And then in 2026, you're having a rookie quarterback. That's the part that concerns me. But I do think he's going to get more touches right away.
Very fair. I do think, I mean, long term, we're probably looking at a much better offense here in New England. So I really
Hopefully.
think it just kind of comes down to which of these running backs you like a little bit better. Because I think you can realistically project a similar range of outcomes for both of these guys, given the question marks that we have on both ends.
All right, let's finish out round one of our rookie draft. Where does Tyler Warren go? Where does QB2 go? We will get to that next. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Scouting Show. The NFL draft is over, but the roster moves and the news never stops. Hosts Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, Kate, you are back on the clock at pick 109. Who are you taking?
Oh, this is where things get really, really tricky, Marcus. I'm still going to go ahead and roll with the running back position. Let's go with Caleb Johnson, running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I dubbed a perfect scheme fit there with Arthur Smith. I think the pathway to a 3-down workload is pretty dang clear here. Jaylen Warren is a guy who we love, the player. Think we love the type of runner he is. He's tough, can get yards after contact, but he's still elusive in the same way. Like he doesn't necessarily need to grind out yardage. Like he can avoid, he can force missed tackles. Like he can do all of the things, but he's still a complimentary running back. Pittsburgh has made tremendous investments, a lot of investments in their offensive line. And I think a big part of that just comes down to their identity as a football team. They want to possess the football on, as long as they possibly can, rest up their defense and let the defense go out and be the star of the show. They want a fairly boring offense here. They're going to use DK Metcalf as a blocker. They're going to use George Pickens as blockers. And I think that's going to create some pretty nice lanes here for Caleb Johnson in this Pittsburgh offense, where I think he immediately, day one, steps into 20 plus touches per game.
Yeah, Jaylen Warren, final year of his deal. Kenneth Gainwell on a 1-year deal. Like this is just going to be his backfield sooner rather than later. And I just don't care too much about Warren being there for a year. It's just not that big of a deal. So I get it. I think Caleb Johnson here at pick 109 makes sense. But you just left me the steal of the draft. I drafted Colston Loveland at pick 106. I'll take Tyler Warren at 110. We like both of these tight ends a lot coming into the draft. Loveland goes first at pick 10 to the Bears. Warren falls to the Colts at pick 14. It's clear that Chris Ballard of the Colts absolutely loved him. We saw the video where there was no debate about who they were taking when he was on the board. They all started clapping as soon as they heard the name Kenneth Grant go to the Dolphins. The quarterback situation is gross in Indy. Like there's no doubt. They've got a lot of pass catchers there that are intriguing, right? Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Adonai Mitchell, Josh Downs, but they haven't had a tight end like this in a long time. And I think Shane Steichen is going to do his best to get him involved in the offense with play action passes and the RPOs. I think Tyler Warren, like Colston Loveland, has a chance to be a top 5, top 6 dynasty tight end by as soon as November. Kate, I'm buying.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. I think from a talent perspective, Tyler Warren was one of my favorite prospects in this draft class. Just an absolute weapon, Swiss Army knife. It can do literally just about anything as a football player, just as a football player. Now, I do think the field of playmakers in Indy, a little bit messy. There's a lot of options there in that offense. Michael Pittman, who, I mean, we can write off his 2024 campaign. He was injured all year, but at the heart of it, still a very talented wide receiver. You have Josh Downs, who I think, again, dealt with health issues, but when he's healthy, I think there's a ton of upside there. You have, Alec Pierce, AD Mitchell, like there's a ton of weapons there. How is the quarterback situation going to shake out? Because they don't have a quarterback capable of maximizing all of those weapons right now. But the draft capital, the talent gives Tyler Warren that edge. Up next, I'm going to take the second quarterback here off the board. I'm going to go with Jaxson Dart starting or presumably sometime eventually starting quarterback for the New York Giants. I don't think he's going to start right away, but I do think year 2, we're probably going to be looking at wheels up. The pathway, behind Russell Wilson, James, like it's kind of a mess right now. But Jaxson Dart, he's young. I think there's plenty of upside for him as a rushing quarterback option. Let's go. I think that if you're getting QB2 in this class with first round draft capital, that 5th year option here in the back half of the first, that feels like a nice deal.
Yeah, this is where you should take him. Like anything higher than this is, I think, just too rich. But he does have some rushing upside. If Brian Dable is his coach for the foreseeable future, I like that. I have my doubts that that's going to be the case. But the good thing is he's got playmakers, Kate. Like he's got a good set of weapons to throw the ball to. The offensive line, in theory, should be better. My hope for Dart is that he gets the opportunities to sit, like for most of the season, because I think if he gets rushed in there, it could be rough. But again, once you get to pick 9, pick 10, pick 11, I think this is the range for Dart. And I'll finish it up with pick 112, which I think is probably the hardest pick because you're looking at like RJ Harvey in this range. My guy, Luther Burden, Emeka Buke, who was the 2nd receiver drafted. I'm going to go with Matthew Golden. And I don't love it. I'm telling you, I don't love it. But he does have first round draft capital. He does have speed. He's got a quarterback that will throw the ball down the field in Jordan Love. And if you look at the Packers playmakers, Christian Watson, last year of his deal coming off a torn ACL, we've got no idea when he's going to be ready. Romeo Doubs, final year of his deal. Jaden Reed, more of a slot-only gadget player. Sorry, Kate. Dontavian Wicks can't catch. It's just there's problems with all of these receivers, and there's just a chance that we see Matthew Golden be the wide receiver 1 on this offense sooner rather than later. I think the upside is fairly low, but do I think he could be like a wide receiver 3 in fantasy? I do, and I think that's why he's worthy of this spot.
I
don't love it. I'm just telling you.
This might be like my least favorite spot in the drafts. Like you can I think find some value here leading up to 112. 112 has to be the worst pick of the draft in most drafts that are kind of going along a standard outcome here because I'm looking at Matthew Golden at the 112 and I'm thinking, okay, what is the upside there? We've been pretty clear about our feelings about Matthew Golden in terms of
who would you take?
At that point, I'd probably take Emeka Egbuka, who I think is just the better wide receiver. I think just has a safer floor. And, obviously situationally with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers stepping into a fairly crowded offense, that's a tough pill to swallow. But I don't know. You have an aging Chris Godwin coming off a pretty serious ankle injury. Maybe the pathway is going to be a little bit more clear than we're expecting for him to get on the field. I just believe in the talent more, but I guess like if you're looking at this situation, you're saying, okay, well, there's no clear wide receiver 1. Great. I don't think Matthew Golden's a wide receiver 1 either, which is my part of my hesitancy. But sure, I guess like Jordan Love can be a gunslinger. So if it works out, it works out.
I know. I'm telling you, I don't feel great about it. If you can move off of that pick, even like 111, 112, if you can move back to the middle part of the second round, you're going to be getting a similar player. That's the move if you can pull it off. If not, see if you can trade up a couple picks. So just to recap our draft, Ashton Jeanty, 101, Cam Ward, 102, Omarion Hampton, 103, second running back off the board, Travis Hunter at 104, bump him up if you play in IDP leagues, Tetairoa McMillan at 105, Colston Loveland, the first real shock of the draft, at 106, Quinshon Judkins at 107, TreVeyon Henderson at 108, Caleb Johnson to your Pittsburgh Steelers at 109, Tyler Warren at 110, Jaxson Dart at 111, and then to round out the draft, Matthew Golden at pick 112. Very different from the draft that we did just a couple weeks ago, Kate. But I think for the most part, these are the 10 or 11 names that you're going to see in the first round.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. That is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. Make sure you check out the channel on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Kate on Twitter at Kate Magdziuk. I'm at Marcus _Mosher, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.